Well, happy Tuesday. Welcome to another episode of What the Heck's Going On in the Real Estate World. I'm Jen Sylvester, coming from you live from Massachusetts. And I'm here to give you the inside scoop on what's going on in the real estate industry. And there is no shortage of news this week. Once again, lots of stuff going on. We're going to dig into the tariffs. Of course, it's all over the news. You're probably wondering what the heck's going on with it. Should I be nervous? Should I be scared? Should I not even worry about it? And it's not going to derail anything. Who knows what's going to happen with the economy? So many unanswered questions. So I'm going to dig into that a little bit. And I'm going to, full disclosure, I'm going to tell you right now that we're just making predictions here, obviously, because anything could happen. And if I wanted to give you a definite answer on anything, the answer is going to be maybe. A big, solid maybe on everything. But I'm going to give you my best information. I researched it as I always do, and I've got a lot to dig into. But before we do that, I've got a guest this week who is actually new to the show. I'm super excited. I've known her for a while. She's a great agent, and if you're watching this, you may be working with her because she's one of my referral partners. But I'm super excited to bring on Mrs. Olga St. Pierre. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here today.
I am super excited. You have a depth of knowledge about a lot of things, and you're in the four corners, or I don't know. Whenever I'm doing a referral, I always look at the map, and there's Delaware, there's Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. All of it's like it's very congested. So your area is, tell me again, the
Philadelphia suburbs and majority of New Jersey. So
Perfect.
I'm in between the two states.
Perfect. Straddling the states.
Yes.
Perfect. You cover a lot of ground, and you're a hardworking agent.
Thank you.
But we're talking about tariffs today, Olga, and we're going to dig into that. But before we do that, I want to do a little bit of industry news. I've been doing this last couple weeks, and before we get into the main event, I want to keep you guys updated on what's happening in the industry as a whole, so that when you're going through this process, if you're getting ready to sell, getting ready to buy, whatnot, you know what's going on. Give you a little sprinkling of information just to keep you updated. And last week, Olga, we talked about a real estate scam in Queens, New York, that some very pretty disgusting people are taking advantage of seniors and whatnot. But this week, we're going to dig into something a little different. And this actually came up, and it's applicable in the sense that I want you guys to be educated. So there are some new real estate rules that went into effect by the National Association of Realtors on how agents list properties, what options they give to home sellers. And, I don't want to get into the weeds with this too much with you guys because I don't want it to be overly confusing, but I did want to touch on it because I think it's important when you're sitting down with your listing agent that if they start, you probably have heard about it, Olga, where they start, shelling out all this information, and you're like, well, what are my options? And sometimes they tell you that this is just the way we do it, and that's not right, because I want you guys to be armed with the info. So, Olga, I know you're so up to date on things. I'm sure you're aware of this. So this is USA Today. Actually, this is like the not that I'm a fan of USA Today, but they did do a good job in simplifying the information for you guys. It says, as new real estate listing rules take effect, will buyer and sellers benefit? It says a new policy clarifying how homeowners may list their properties for sale may instead sow confusion and friction in the housing market just months after an earlier set of rule changes went into effect, adding an additional layer of complexity for buyers and sellers. This is why I wanted to go over it, right? I think that this is unnecessary to make it confusing. It doesn't have to be confusing, and it may not be what your agent presents it as. So the new policy, called Multiple Listing Options for Sellers, was issued late March. okay, by the National Association of Realtors. And what it does is it allows owners to offer their homes for sale in more limited private ways than simply listing it on the broad marketplaces known as MLS. It says NAR says it was developed in response to seller demand for an approach. I don't believe that to be true, which I'm going to touch on in a second, and I'm sure Olga, you're going to agree with me. It says, but many industry professionals say very few sellers actually ask for an option, but are instead steered to it by brokers who stand to benefit from keeping listings semi-private and shared among their own client networks. This is why I want to talk about this. This is what once more an increasingly fragmented and inefficient market benefits neither buyer nor sellers and may increase the likelihood of discriminatory practices. It says if private listings increase, the market will become more chaotic, inefficient, and subject to manipulation. Olga, that's exactly what we need. To have a more inefficient real estate market.
Right.
Good grief. Okay, so what is the new policy? All right, so the policy offers two choices. An office exclusive exempt listing. Well, what the heck is that? That's when that one is one that will only be available to other listing agents, other agents at the listing agent's brokerage. So what that means is if your agent says, we have this exclusive exempt listing, and I totally disagree with this. I think there's an appropriate time, Olga, for this to happen, but in general, I think there's nefarious undertones with this. So basically, it's what they're saying is that an exclusive exempt listing basically means they're going to make it available to only the agents in their office and not available to the public. Why would they do that? Oh, so that we can try to get good qualified buyers in? No, so they can double dip and do dual agency. What has your experience been with agents that have listed their property, Olga, with this exclusive exempt listing situation?
We haven't had a lot of these, but here's my other way of maybe looking at it. I know that there are some sellers who may not want to have literally clouds of people tramping through their house.
Mm-hmm.
For example, there's one client that I spoke with that has a sister who does not want anybody going through her house because she knows that it's not updated and she knows that it needs repairs, and she's just simply embarrassed. And I think this is where presenting the options to clients and explaining to them clearly in a simple way on how each of these options work, so that way they then can make a decision on what is going to be best for them. Do they want the maximum exposure? Then it goes on the multiple listing service. If they are looking for less traction for whatever it is their reasoning may be, even though it may be less exposure, that is their choice and their prerogative. But I think our responsibility to our clients as agents is to explain what the pros and cons are for each option.
110%, which is exactly the reason why, I'm bringing this up, because as you and I both know, most agents don't do what they're supposed to do and explain all the options, right? So a home seller armed with this information can be proactively the one that asks about it. But real quick, the options, basically, it's the exclusive exempt or a delayed marketing exempt. It says will be shared on the multiple listing service and therefore able to be seen by other real estate professionals, but not automatically advertised more broadly on consumer-facing websites. So in other words, it is available in MLS and MLS agents, okay, which is primarily the majority of real estate agents, but it does not go out to the interwebs, right? It stays on the interwebs. Traditionally, house goes in the multiple listing service and it automatically aggregates out to everywhere. So you've got the top end, absolutely, positively, every corner of the planet covered, telling everybody. You've got the second level, which is, I want it to go to MLS, I want it to go to agents, but I don't want it to be broadcast to the general public. And then you've got, I don't want anybody to know except for the agents in that particular office. Now, one of the things that a lot of agents, Olga, I think will do, will steer sellers, and that's one of the things that I would be cautious about. This agent, Summer Goralick. She's an independent real estate compliance consultant. She says there are so many implications of a less than transparent marketplace. Everyone's talking about seller choice, but buyer's choice just got really limited. It says advocates say that the new policy encourages what is called dual agency. Now, I did a big video on dual agency. I am very, me personally, I'm anti-dual agency. I don't believe dual agency should exist because of the fact that I don't believe that it's possible for one agent to look out for the best interest of both the buyer and the seller. But when you're talking about the first option, that is something that I would be concerned about, Olga. I would be very concerned about, only marketing to agents that are in your office, because that's like an automatic dual agency. And often agents will do that intentionally to try to double dip out of the gate instead of just putting it out to the masses. You know what I mean? And allowing, folks to see it. To your point, if you want limited exposure, you could do the second tier with just put an MLS. And I guess it does depend on the situation. If you have a super high-end property or a super sensitive situation and you don't want it to be broadcast, but that's not the norm, Olga, right? That's not the norm
Agreed.
for most people.
Agreed.
Most people, you want to get it out to the masses. The biggest problem, though, from the buyer's perspective, is now you're limiting the buyer's exposure, because if you do the first tier and only do the office, the buyers don't see it. If you do the second tier and only do it to the agents, well, if you're an unrepresented buyer, you're not going to see it. So this puts the buyers at a serious disadvantage, and which means there may be properties out there that you might be interested in looking at and purchasing, but you're not going to know about them.
And you know what, too, we have limited inventory as it is.
Yep.
So now it's going to be even more limited, of course, depending on the seller's choices that they make.
Now, if the buyer, it has a buyer agency agreement, right? Mm-hmm. Then at least they'll see it through the second option. But, yes, I think every buyer should eventually get a buyer agent. I do. But should they be forced to sign with the buyer agent until they're ready, just because they're looking? No, I don't think that to be the case at all. I think they should be allowed to do their due diligence. But anyways, you got anything to add to that, Olga?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is that I think it all comes down to really good and clear communication.
Yep.
Right. Like if I was to put myself in my shoes and say, because, you and I are both planners, right? We're proactive. So if I was thinking about buying something,
how did you know?
Yes, I hear you. So let's say, we're now in the beginning of the spring market and I am thinking about buying a vacation home in September. Being that I'm proactive, I'm going to start doing my homework now. I'm not necessarily ready to do anything. So why would I want to sign something now?
Right.
But at the same time, I'm going to be upfront and honest with, I am reaching out to agents and say, listen, I am doing my research. This is what I'm looking for. And I think that if that clear communication is explained and it's upfront and honest, I think everybody will be on the same page, and the agents are not going to feel slighted that they're being taken advantage of because they're being asked for information. And at the same time, buyers are also going to understand why the buyer's agency is there in the first place.
Yep. 100%, 110%. I couldn't agree more. We got some folks. I'm just going to check the chat here real quick. We've got Nina. Welcome. I think this might be the first time you're in the chat. Welcome. Good to see you here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Prices of houses are getting down. Yes. We are hearing that and we are seeing that. We got Clark in the house saying hello. Olga. We got the infamous Jackie Baker chiming in. Jackie Baker in the house.
Hi, Clark. Hi, Jackie.
We got, look at this handle. None of your damn business. None of whatever.
Business.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
just love it. I've had my
Creative.
house for sale for almost 2 months now, well before the tariffs, had no offers at all. And that time, my opinion, tariffs will not affect me in a negative way. I'm interested in what area of the country are you from? What state are you
Yes,
from?
which
You know,
market?
just yeah, give me an idea of the market that you're in. I'd love to know that. And I think we're gonna dig into the tariffs on
Hmm.
who's gonna be affected the most, and it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna
For
be interesting
sure.
to
Yeah,
see.
I think it'll be interesting to know where everybody's coming from, which market, because we're talking about Northeast. My area is still very busy. I can give you an example. I had a house on the market that we just get got an offer signed. I had 18 offers,
Wow.
but
Well,
it,
and
it was
you're in that
also
that New Jersey area. That area is popping. Like
right. We're
you're
in
in your
between,
general. That's
Philly.
yeah.
Yeah, we're sort of in
It's different.
Philadelphia, so we're serving two really big metropolitan markets. So we're still busy.
Yep.
We're seeing really good activity.
Benji says, will prices drop in Middle Tennessee? Um, we will see. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it, and I don't have a clear cut answer. Don't mean to sidestep you, but um, stay tuned. Jackie
Sure.
says Jersey's out of control. Jackie, you need to whip Jersey into control. All right, let's get into the content, Olga, because we got a lot to
Let's
cover
do
here.
it.
So we got
Yep, let's do it.
so as I mean, if unless you live under a rock, we've got the Trump announced last week all of his tariffs, and the list is long, and there's been some fallout. There's been some changes that some backpedaling on how it impacts Canadian lumber imports, which
Hmm.
I'm going to talk about. But this is Realtor.com reported this on what Trump's liberation tariff moves mean for home prices and mortgage rates. Now, this was posted a couple days prior, but in preparation. They talk about. I like the way that they presented it actually, and explaining the what ifs, because we are at the what ifs, right? It's too early to see any fallout yet, but so we're all like hypothesizing. This is declaring it a Liberation Day for American workers. President Donald Trump on Wednesday announced sweeping new tariffs that could impact home prices and mortgage rates. Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off, yada, yada. You know what? I am going to skip over this, guys, because you have probably read it and you probably don't need me to rehash it. And some of this has already changed. This part here, the new reciprocal tariffs include effective at midnight, including a minimum 10% baseline tax on most trading partners with proportionally higher levies, et cetera, et cetera. Some of this has changed, which I'm going to show in a second. Literally changed yesterday. It says the tariffs, which are taxes on imported goods, are typically paid to the government by the local businesses importing those goods. In most cases, the cost is passed along to consumers in the form of higher prices. I read this, Olga, because it's amazing to me that people still don't understand. A lot of people don't understand that still.
Right. Hmm.
That it is this. We'll wait to see the fallout to see if this is going to be eventually a good thing. But in the short term, it's going to hurt. He says that the goal with the new tariffs is to level the playing field for American-made products and spur a renaissance of U.S. manufacturing. And the White House says that evidence from Trump's first term. This is not an anti-Trump statement or anything of that nature. This is just dealing the facts. This piece of information that I actually learned today about U.S. manufacturing, just, the more you know. This is the National Association of Manufacturers, Olga. There are currently, January 2025, there are almost 500,000 manufacturing jobs open right now. 500,000, 462,000 in January. Manufacturing jobs open.
See, I would
I,
be curious to know if there is a report, and I know that's kind of like probably digging in deeper, but how many of these jobs are going to be your entry level? How many of
mm-hmm,
them are maybe management? Like, what does that look like? What are the qualifications for you to be able to get those jobs?
yep,
Because then that can help you, because that's all tied into the unemployment rate, which is kind of all of that is part of the what we're watching for the consumer price index, inflation, all these key indicators.
correct, correct, correct. And that's the thing that I think is the reason, take a sidestep here.
Hmm.
One of the reasons why the stock market is reacting the way it is the fact that there was no forewarning. There's no, workup on the tariffs. There was no like, this is the plan, this is the reason, this is what the course of action. It just, it wasn't here and now it's here with no explanation. And investors are going crazy because they're nervous. They don't know what to anticipate because those questions are not being answered. A lot of the manufacturing jobs. I was reading another report the other day that a lot of the manufacturing jobs that are being cut out in China and so on and so forth. They're not even manufacturing jobs by people. They're being managed by machines. We don't have those machines. We don't know. They have to be built, and then to your point, train the people to run the machines. It's a whole new thing. So, anyways, I
And
get the
that's going to
goal.
take years.
It's gonna
It's
take
going to
probably
take
more
years.
than his term, and I get why he's doing it. But in the meantime, there are going to be ripple effects, and the housing market with the largest has the gross domestic product in this country is the housing market. The amount of money
Exactly.
that brings in, you start messing with that, and that's when you start hearing the rumors of stagflation. But in any event,
You know what? I have some good news. Like I look
tell
at all
me,
of this
tell me,
and
tell me.
and it's all of that doom and gloom and it's all that negativity. But the good news is where these are the conversations that I have every day with my clients, is the fact that the stock market, it's like a moody teenager. If it didn't have coffee and it's every morning, right? It's going to be skipping up and down, back and forth every day because it reacts to
Mm,
news. And that's why, for some of my clients, they're like, I can't watch my balances just go back and forth every day. And I said, you
yep.
you don't want to do that. But the reason why we love real estate as an asset class and why it's so important is because it is not that moody. It is that slow moving elephant that just keeps going forward, and it has the peaks and valleys. So even though, yes, tariffs and all of this commotion and everything else that's going on, it's not going to happen tomorrow. We're
Correct.
going to see the effects, but it's going to take a little bit longer for those things to take place. Yes, it's going to be felt, but it's not going to be like the stock market. So I think it's important for people to realize and remember that it is not a full panic mode. Yes, these things are happening. This is the reality. So how do we figure out and make it work for us and focus on what we can control?
I couldn't agree. You know what? Thank you for that. I thank you for that because that is well said. And I'll just add that the stock market and the moodiness of the stock market, because you're absolutely right. And that's why it does all this, and that's why
Hmm.
a real estate market, with the exception of the pandemic era, the real estate
Right.
market is very slow, and then there's slow down, and then it's over the
Up and
course
steady.
of
Yep, it's
a
steady
year, two
forward.
years, not the course of
Hmm.
days. But the
Hmm.
thing that to remember as it pertains, and I'm not going to really dig into the mortgage rates on this live stream. I'm going to
Yep.
focus more
Hmm.
on the home prices. But in terms
Hmm.
of mortgage rates and how the tariffs impact the mortgage rates, you look at what actually impacts the rate on a day-to-day basis, and that's treasury bonds, T bonds, right? That is impacted by investor environment. What's happening? How do the investors feel? Well, the stock market, not that they're directly linked, but if there's craziness going on in the stock market, and to your point, that moody teenager's like, I don't know, that will affect down the line, it's going to affect the mortgage rate. It's not the Fed directly. The Fed rate does not impact the mortgage rate directly, but the investor climate does. Because if the
Sure.
investors don't feel good about it, then the rates are going to go up. If they're feeling good about it, the rates will go. Like it's a cyclical thing, and it's a. I never thought that's a. I'm gonna write that moody teenager. The stock
Oh,
market
that's
is a
so
moody
best. I was like,
teenager.
I can't think of any other way to describe
When
it, but
uh, when my
sweet.
18-year-old starts giving me crap I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm done with you acting like a stock market. And then,
There you go.
and she's going to look at me like,
Let me
huh?
know what she says. That'll be interesting to hear.
She's going to be like, Ma, you are losing your marbles. And I'm like, what else is new? Okay, so getting back to this article, what tariffs mean to home prices. And actually, you know what? Sorry to go bouncing around here, guys. I just want to take a quick break. While you were talking, I actually was looking at the chat, and then
Oh yeah.
brain. We got
Anything interesting?
we got Columbus, Ohio represented.
Some.
We got Nunya says the houses around me are selling within days
Hey,
of going on the market, except for mine.
Where's this person?
Columbus, Ohio. So
Oh, Columbus. So,
yeah,
okay,
so
got
I
it.
would, if you're in a situation where your house is sitting and everyone else's is not, it's price. I talk about this all the time. It's price and presentation. Price and presentation. You need them to match. It doesn't mean you have to have the perfect house. Any house, the ugliest house, the messiest house, the cleanest. They all sell if they have the right price, and it may not be the price that you want. But if your agent is not doing that on a regular basis, in other words, they should be reevaluating. If your market's moving, they should be reevaluating every 2 to 3 weeks. Are we on the right track? Are we on the right track? And if you are seeing the people around you selling and yours is not, maybe time to get a new agent, but at the very least, reevaluate. You got to have an actual meeting and tell them to put a new market analysis together and show you why the number is what it is. Maybe you need some adjustment, unfortunately.
Yep.
Let's see what else we got. Jackie Baker says real estate is the best investment, but you have to be in it for the long haul. It is definitely a crock pot, not a microwave.
Ooh, that's another good one. See, crockpot, slow and steady.
Slow and
See,
steady.
You have some good gems today too, Jen.
It's not my first rodeo, you know. Angie says stock market always gone up and down. I think the people securing their jobs will still buy homes. I think the same. And actually, we're going to get into that in a second.
Well, you know what? What's the number one need? Is shelter. No
Yep.
matter what, you need to have a shelter, and then you're going to need to eat. So there's always going to be a need.
100%. And some of us like to eat more than others. Buying bonds should ultimately drop rates. Yes. Jackie, yes, ask your realtor to see the most recent comps. MH08, good to see you. Denver, Colorado, postponing a new stove. Yeah, I think a lot of people are pressing the pause button, myself included, on buying stuff. And it's being seen across the country. Sales are down across the country. Travel is down. International travel is down. Well, for other reasons too. But across the country, people are starting to just pull back.
Yep.
Possum Smile says, won't tariffs affect new build housing differently than existing homes? Yes, and we are going to get into that.
Yes, we're going to talk about that.
So let's get back into it because I want to dig into that because I got lots of stuff I want to talk about with you. So it says what it means for the home prices. It says for the housing market, the new tariffs could mean higher construction costs for home builders to the extent that they will impact the imported materials used in home construction. National Association of Home Builders estimates that about 10% of the building materials used in residential construction are imported. The U.S. faces a supply gap still of nearly 4 million homes. Okay, so for what you guys need to understand is that 4 million homes, what that represents is if we have a balanced market, okay, that means there's enough homes for every buyer, then the prices even out, things become a little bit more stable. But when we've got a significant shortage below where the supply demand is, we got to, and regardless of what you might hear on the news, I heard this today that we're in a buyer's market. You might be in one little market that's a buyer's market. The entire country is not in a buyer's market. It is just not there. We're in a deficit of 4 million. We need 4 million homes to get to even so that those prices start becoming so more reasonable. Buyers can negotiate, fairly with a home seller and get things more realistic. So it says the only short-term solution to this problem is to build, create it. You can't just pull it out of thin air. You got to create it. But the implementation of these tariffs implementation of these tariffs will make it more costly to do so, putting a question mark on whether they can be built on the lower price points that are more undersupplied. Home buyers are already stretched thin by high listing prices and mortgage rates, so this relatively small increase in cost, okay, will keep them on the sideline who may otherwise become buyers in 2025. Berner, who is the Realtor.com senior economist, by the way, Berner estimates that almost $10,000 of the cost of a new home will be due to tariffs, including a 14.5% tariff on Canadian lumber that predates Trump's second term. Okay.
You know what might be interesting is to have an actual new construction salesperson come on and talk about what they're seeing. Because I'm starting to get incentives that are texted to me from the new construction. So that's also a telling sign.
Absolutely. Well, so on the heels of that statement, which was last week, this came through earlier today. Okay? This is brand new, hot off the presses. Tariffs on Canadian lumber set to double in surprise move, sending home builder stocks plunging. Yep. This guy does not look happy.
No, he doesn't. He looks devastated.
Home builder stocks plunged Monday, following reports that the U.S. is preparing to sharply increase tariffs on Canadian lumber, independent of President Donald Trump's new reciprocal tariffs. The U.S. is preparing to raise duties on Canadian softwood lumber to 34.4% under anti-subsidy and anti-dumping rules, up from the level of 14.5% set last year. So I wanted to insert this because that article the main article has been updated. According to the Commerce Department memo by Bloomberg. It says the biggest publicly traded home builders, including D.R. Horton, Lennar, PulteGroup, Toll Brothers, all suffered declines, with their stock dropping 3.5% to 6.1% at the closing bell. Tariffs are the clear culprit for the stock market pullback and fears of a recession. This is going to be a big issue. It says going back to the other article, Olga says the ability of American home builders to produce affordable housing, a new inventory, is directly linked to their ability to import key materials from our neighboring countries. Fortunately for new home shoppers, Canadian lumber is currently exempt. That's not true anymore. From 25% national security tariff, which we already went over. It says that it's unclear whether the baseline 10% reciprocal tariff will be added to lumber. Once it takes effect, the National Association of Home Builders has said that some of its members have reported that they are planning for tariffs to increase material cost between $7,500 and $10,000.
I'm looking at the DR Horton stock history right now, just for funsies.
Just for funsies. So here's the thing, and whoever asked the question about existing homes. So this is like a twofold thing, Olga. So we're going to see if this holds true, if this is not another negotiation. Who the heck knows what Donald Trump's going to do tomorrow? He could cancel the whole thing. But just for, argument's sake, everything stays the way it is now. You're going to have builders that say, I can't do it. I can't do it because the prices are here. In order for me to buy this lumber and build the home, I'm right here. My profit margin is nil. I'm going to raise my prices, but now my prices are above what the market values are in the neighborhood, and I'm never going to be able to sell them. So a lot of the builders are going to pull out. Another thing that could happen is they do raise their prices in areas that have inventory shortage. Then they'll raise the prices, but what does that do to everybody else's prices? It raises it. What if they pull out entirely, Olga, and they're like, you know what? Builders across the country are pressing the pause button. Their stocks are plummeting. They can't afford to get the lumber. They can't make the ends meet. They don't have enough laborers. We're just going to pull out. Okay. What happened the last time our inventory shrunk? Prices went up. Prices went up. This is not good news for home buyers. Potentially good news for home sellers because your value of your home is going to go up, but you do still need a buyer to buy that home. But there are a lot of people that are ready, willing, and able, that are paying cash, that are making big down payments, that will buy. The first time home buyers are getting it on the chin. What do you think?
I think this is going to be felt in those states where there is a lot of new construction going on, like Texas and
Mm-hmm.
Florida. As you know, in Texas, in many areas, the market has slowed down significantly. Like, to give you an example, I have colleagues and friends in Austin, and their market is we don't want any more listings because things are not selling. And in Florida, the same thing. The market has softened enough where things are sitting, which means that new construction, they're going to slow down with building because if they can't sell every day that those homes are sitting, the builder is paying the mortgage and the interest on the loans that they have outstanding that they borrowed in order to actually build. And that is the first, usually, ticker, that the warning that we look at on the changes in the housing market are the new construction. Either they're slowing down, if they're starting to offer incentives, finished basements, other
Mm-hmm.
upgraded appliances, level 2 and 3 finishes, or they start saying, listen, we're going to give you money towards your closing costs, or they're going to say, we're going to buy down your rate. As soon as you start to see more of these incentives and bonuses, that is telling you that the market is turning in their area. And that's kind of like one of the indicators that I know I watch really closely.
So you bring up a good point because on the builder loan rates,
Mm-hmm.
all these builders, they're not all independently wealthy with a ton of cash in their back pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And the rates that are already high, if they take a swing in the other direction, they're going to be impact. That's going to be another gut punch to the builders on top of all of these costs.
Mm-hmm.
The thing, so to answer your question, I want to bring up Possum Smiles comment again. Okay, so it, won't tariffs affect do new housing differently, new build housing than existing sales? So yes, it's going to affect them, like like we just talked about. Like if the builders pull out and there's less inventory, then you're talking about more demand. More demand means higher prices. However, the other element, Olga, is how many home sellers do we know that maybe have been in their home for a while and they're like, you know what, I'm going to make my home more appealing and I'm going to put in new floors because the carpets are just gross. Or I'm going to redo the roof because the roof is actually leaking and I don't want to negotiate with the buyer. Or maybe they're not looking to sell for 5 years and they're like, you know what, in the interim, I'm going to redo my bathroom, do a moderate bathroom, so at least I can enjoy it before I sell it. Well, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
The cost in all those materials
It's
have gone
gone up
through the
too.
roof. Now those are subject to the tariffs as well. So it's not just the Canadian. It's just not lumber. It's not limited to. I think they mentioned they also get gypsum from Canada, which is imported gypsum used for drywall production. Actually, comes from Mexico. 74% of our imported gypsum comes from Mexico. But all those updates, all those improvements that you want to maybe do and enjoy, or maybe do for the sake of selling because it does make sense in your market, now that's dipping into your bottom line because it costs way more money to take care of those repairs. So I think that's a little bit of a challenge. Yeah, I wonder, Olga, if we'll be seeing a lot more, because someone made a comment that the other day on one of my videos that, and I don't disagree with it, that there's a lot more pretty homes on the market these days. I mean, I remember, beginning of my career, late 90s, early 2000s, there was I sold a lot of ugly homes. There's a market for them, right? First time home buyers. People don't want to spend a ton of money and do the site. I bought an ugly house. I mean, it needed a lot of
So, I mean,
updates,
so
you
I
know?
did too.
And I spent the better part of 15 years, a lot of it doing it, my husband and I did it ourselves, or we had a contractor come in. But now, especially after COVID, everybody's renovated their house, and those ugly houses are farther and few between. I wonder if we'll see a resurgence of that. of people that are just
I
like,
think
I
we
can't
will.
afford it. You know what I mean?
I think we will a resurgence of dated homes, older homes, because baby boomers are coming up. And
Yep.
a lot of them, it's not this, it's a very different generation of how they look at things. If their kitchen is solid wood, maybe not the color that is desirable right now, but everything works. Their position is, why do we need to fix it if everything's working? So I
Yep.
think we're going to see actually the increase as baby boomers age and get older. All of them are going to be 65 in 2030, which is actually my focus, right? That's my niche. I focused on working with a lot of seniors and their families. That is what I'm seeing when I go into their homes. It's a solid home. It is not as updated. Some things maybe, depending on what their focus and priorities are, yet it's solidly built. Everything works.
Yes. MHOA said, I got an ugly house. You know what? There's something to be said about that. Like, that's comforting,
Mhm.
I think. Like, it's like,
Agreed.
it is what it is. Angie says, we always bought the ugly house and fixed them up ourselves. There is something, I mean, is it easy? No. Can everybody do it? No.
No.
But it
Hmm.
is incredibly satisfying to know,
100%.
like, I did this. I rebuilt that. I fixed this. And you do it your way and you learn along the way. You learn the correct way. You find your limitations. But it's just,
I actually had a
I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
I had a client recently actually who said, Olga, we want an ugly fixer-upper, because
Mm-hmm.
that way when we're going to renovate it, we know it's going to get done right, and we're going to put in the finishes that we want, not what somebody else wanted, and we are just going to have to live with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Maddie says if materials are more expensive, maybe there will be fewer bad flips.
I thought about that too.
You
We
know
see,
what?
we see that. We see that.
I have a saying for homes that are flipped, homes that, for those watching wondering what that is. It's somebody buying a foreclosed property, distressed property,
Mhm.
putting some lipstick on a pig, as I say. The lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. Doing some
Okay.
shoddy renovations and then putting it back on the market, and jacking the price
Saying
up
it's all
and
new.
representing everything's been done. Um,
Mhm.
I think that for most investors, unless you are doing this professionally, you have a professional crew. The only thing that people should be flipping are hamburgers, honestly.
Good.
like
When you
it's
see
just,
the specials, yeah, when they see the
unless you get a
specials,
professional, like you
looking
get a contractor that actually this is what they do for a living and they can do it properly. But man, make sure if you're looking at a house like that, make sure you have a really good home inspector. I mean,
that's exactly what
I've
I'm
seen it
thinking.
all. I've seen it all.
I
Um,
agreed. Agreed.
I want to I'm scanning these. Melissa says Central Ohio is in limbo due to Intel coming in. Microsoft changing their mind about building. Interesting. 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 I wonder
That will be
if
actually interesting to see when you have a major employer coming into town. That should be an excellent opportunity because that means there's going to be new jobs, there's going to be opportunities, and
so.
that's one of the first things is the housing market.
We always talk about that, and I
Hmm.
don't want I always try to, like, I want to balance things, and I don't want to be the negative Nelly because that's not. I'm typically, that glass half full, but do we need more manufacturing jobs? There's a 500,000 open manufacturing jobs in the country that aren't being filled. I think that it's like, from a realistic standpoint, I think it's not the jobs we need. I think it's the wage needs to be higher and there's got to be better training. Because a lot of these manufacturing jobs, like, overseas, they're not doing it. I watched an entire documentary. It was fascinating, and they said, the people don't we don't get people don't companies don't buy things from China because just because the work it's not the workers that are working cheaper. A lot of them, they have better technology and automation than we do in a lot of areas. And that needs to be mimicked here, but then train the people and pay them what they're worth. to run it. Pay them
Sure.
what they're worth. I saw a statistic earlier today that said that the average CEO, CFO, CEO, back in the boomer age made 20 times the average worker salary. Today they make 300 times the average salary, the worker salary.
People are going to say, "How is that fair?"
That
Who does
makes me
majority of the
want to
work, right?
vomit, honestly, because really, what are you doing that
Hmm.
is so, yes, okay, training, and you're putting in hours, and you have more responsibility and all the things. Uh no, not when you're making $1 billion. Now make $1 million? Really? I think our teachers should be paid more than that with the amount of crap they put up with.
I hear
Teachers,
you.
can I get an amen?
Yes,
Seriously,
for sure.
really? I don't know. I don't want. I want to get. I'm going to get off that subject because I get heated because I think it's just there's people out there just working their tail off and not earning what they should. Anyways, let's see here. Yes, Angie, it's too early to predict anything. We'll have to see what plays out. 110%. Sinner's Dispatch, good to see you in the house. We're all screwed. Glad I bought a house before it goes sideways. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that at all. I would say that I think you will be glad that you bought it because you're able to build equity and you're able to. I mean, anyone who buys, Olga, would you agree that if, big asterisk, if you're financially ready meaning not only can you afford the house, but you're able to you have reserves, you're financially situated so that you can weather the storm. If the insurance goes up, if your taxes go up, right? You're able to weather the storm. Financially, you're secure. Job is secure. Your family situation is secure. If you're ready, buy now, because anyone who buys now will ultimately 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, be in a position where they said, I'm glad I did. Because even if the market goes downward, it always goes back up. It's just a matter of, it's a crock pot, guys. It's a crock pot. You just got to wait it out. The market crashed in 08, 07, right? And everyone said the market will never be this high again. Never.
Never say never.
Never say never. Do you think, Olga, that it will go as high as it is now and higher? Yep. Do you think
I
it'll
think it's going to
continually?
keep going.
110%.
Yes.
The properties that are selling at 600 will be worth $1 million someday.
For sure. And you know what, too? I think
It's just the
people
way it
are
goes.
forgetting the fact that your home, whether it's the one you live in, whether you have investment properties, is a huge chunk of your retirement fund. Please don't forget that.
Yep. That is true. And then I tell you, that's the people that the stock market and the games that are being played. And I'm just going to say, I think you're playing with people's lives with this stuff. I get the whole industry. I get the whole, trying to create opportunity. And I see the whole picture. However, in the short term, I think of the boomers that are on the edge of retirement, or they're retired and they're on the edge of selling, and or they on the edge of pulling that money out of their investments, because that's the nest egg that they need. And yes, the stock market goes up and down and all the things, but not this way. They haven't seen it drop like this since 2020, right? Early 2020. And that was unusual. And that was a pandemic. There's no pandemic. The pandemic was something that was out of their control. We won't go there with all the, what ifs and what happened and all the things, but this was on purpose. And Olga, and I'm going to voice my opinion. They're playing with people's lives doing this stuff. And I just don't think I don't think it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Not safe. It's not sensitive. Yeah, it's not responsible. Mm-hmm. It's not responsible. Let's see. What do we got? We got, I love an active chat, guys. Thank you so much. I love that you're all here. Yeah, Red, this generation is more entitled. Listen, not all, but Unfortunately, yeah. I would. It, they
It's
don't know
very
how.
different.
It's very different. It's very different. It's very. I don't know. I have my gadgets and I have all my stuff and I like that. I like technology. I love technology. But I catch myself, Olga. I catch myself. I'm like, do I really need this? Do I
Look,
really
I'm still old
need this?
school. I got my notebook and a pen.
Yeah, yeah. And I just think that it's just. I think that as a society, Americans have confused want and need. Want and need are two separate things, guys.
For sure.
Um, let's see. Melissa says, "Oh, geez, housing prices in the area of Intel are insane. People are paying double and up. Yikes!"
You know why? Because Intel, you talking about tech sector, they have good salaries, which means that they can afford it. So they're driving up those prices too.
Absolutely, positively. You know what? Another area that I found out, it's south of Seattle area. It's like
Hmm.
north, like southern, like Oregon, right? Northern California.
Hmm.
It's a big tech sector up there, and people they
Hmm.
come and go and come and go, and
Hmm.
tons of money. MHOA says, and you can bet these manufacturing jobs won't be going to Rust Belt states. This is the issue that I have. And this is the thing that they're not talking about. They're not talking about the how. They're talking about the what, but they're not talking about the how. And, you know, Olga, when I do goal setting at the beginning of the year, and I set my practical goals and my stretch goals. My stretch goals are like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but this is what I want to do, so I'm going to try. But those are like just personal goals. This is the country. Like you just don't do that with the American people. What is going on? We need skilled labor. Yes, we do. We need skilled labor. We need well paid laborers. We need. I mean,
Hmm.
a lot of the electricians. I actually told my daughter the other day. She's going into the film industry, film production. Directing. She doesn't know what she's going to do. She's going to go to college, figure it out, and she's incredibly gifted in all the things. But I told her, I said, you know what? You sure you don't want to be like a welder because they make great money. They make great money. Get into
There's
that.
there's a shortage of the trades that will never go out of business. We need
Well,
more electricians and plumbers and heating and air conditioning guys. These are the people that will always have a job. They are well paid,
yep.
but there's shortage because the current generation is not going to trade schools to become one of these.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Hmm.
And uh, I know that there's a contingent. Hold on, I'm trying to see if I can type here. If I can put the statistic on it. I mean, the labor shortage is significant. I think it's like 35% of the trades, people in the trades are going to be retiring. I can't come up with it. I'm trying to look for the.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you know
I
what the
can't
other
find it.
thing that I've
But
learned? Been doing some research on the small mom and pop shops, which a lot of these are owned by baby boomers,
yep,
where these businesses are not big enough for Wall Street to buy them.
yep,
And what ends up happening is that they just shut down instead of selling to someone where, the opportunity is there to buy the book of business and the clients to keep these businesses going. So
yep.
that's going to be another something to consider as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jam's Essential Mass is still crazy. One house we liked went for 50,000 over asking with inspections waived. Another 20,000 over asking, info only inspection. We can't compete with that. So it is hard. I would say that you can buy a house without waiving a home inspection. Happened that this weekend. I'm representing a buyer, and we went into an open house, and there were 7, 8 offers, something of that nature. We leveraged some tools that not everybody used. We looked at gap appraisal. We looked at, covering the gap if there's an appraisal gap. We looked at escalation clauses. If you're looking at properties in Massachusetts, a lot of agents and buyers use escalation clauses. But Olga, we did not waive the home inspection. And I advised my client, I said, these are all the tools in your tool belt. Here's how they work. Here are the pros, here are the cons. And, here are the comps and what I think the house will sell for and so on and so forth. And let him decide the path based on what his, risk tolerance was and all the things. And I said, however, the one thing that I really want to strongly recommend is that you don't waive the home inspection. Mind you, the house is over 100 years old. It was renovated and all the things. It was very nice house. But even if it wasn't 100 years old, if he said, I want to do it, I've given my advisement. He's the captain of the ship. I will, whatever he wants to do, I will respect that. But he didn't. And we still got the deal. He still got the house, which I'm, incredibly happy for him. So, JM, it's possible, but maybe look at all the tools in your negotiation tool belt with your agent.
You could also potentially bring in an inspector with you at the actual showing. If you schedule a showing for about an hour. Make
sure you check with the listing agent. Let the listing agent know first, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Because then the inspector can give you a kind of like a walk and talk inspection, but at least you're looking at the major mechanical, structural things that are the most important ones, not the cosmetics.
Yep.
So that's another option if you can do that in your area.
David, thank you. Seeing you live twice so made my day. You're making my day by saying that. Jackie Baker's in the house. So, hey, thanks for being here. I really appreciate that. It was on Jackie's live stream last night, Olga.
And okay, great.
You had a good time? Wish her happy birthday. Yes, I played her a birthday song and all the things.
Oh,
did a silly dance because, that's how I roll. Let's see. Plumbing company. MHO is the plumbing company I used to went out of business. Seeing a lot of that. I think they're going out of business. A lot of the trades, companies that I have used over the years, recommended to my clients and whatnot. They're either closing shop because they can't get help, or they can't afford to keep the doors open, or they're retiring.
Yep. Exactly.
I wanted to switch, Olga, to some stats on which states will feel the most home price pain from tariffs. It says in March, about 18% of the homes listed for sale across the country were newly built, according to Realtor.com. 18%. But it's not across the country, right? It says, however, new construction plays an outsized role in certain states, and those are often places where housing is scarce and the need for additional housing is the strongest. In Idaho, get this, a whopping 40% of active listings on the market last month were new builds, the highest share in any state. I was blown away by that, 40%. So Idaho, the land of the potato.
Potatoes. Yeah, right.
And it says behind Idaho, we've got North Carolina at 33%. Tiny little Delaware. I talked to an agent from Delaware yesterday, and one of my referral partners there, and she was telling me, Olga, about because you've got your foot in that pond down there, and she said a lot of people are moving down there because of they're trying to get out of either Philadelphia, or they're trying to get out of Jersey because it's a little bit more appealing, more affordable, I guess.
A lot of people also retiring to Delaware too, for many reasons.
That's what she said. So 31% new construction, Utah, 28%, and then Nebraska. If we got David Matney still in the house, good old Nebraska. David Matney's in Omaha. So we've got new construction shares of listings by state, and this is as of March. So, interestingly enough, we talk about Florida, we talk about Texas and the Austin, 27. But what's interesting is that it didn't make the top tiers, right? You didn't make the top 5, which was interesting. Outside those states, but for sure, you can see that these areas, which is interesting, like the Northeast, for the most part, this is where, I mean, you're looking at Massachusetts up here, and we've got, Jersey and Rhode Island and Connecticut. Low percentages, we don't see a lot of new construction. Also, we're driving,
We don't
we're
have the
carrying them.
land.
We don't have the
We don't
land
have the land.
density, but
So, yes.
the density reflects the number of people that want to be squeezed in that area. We're willing to pay
Absolutely.
ridiculous prices to live here.
Absolutely.
But also, you look at, you got California and we got Nevada and what, I mean, it's all, it's not, there's not as much, a lot of protected area, national forests and such, areas here that have low construction. But I just thought it was interesting. These are the areas that are going to feel the pinch.
Idaho, though, never thought. 40% new construction?
40%. Now, somebody had asked about Tennessee. Now, help me out here,
Yes.
Olga. My Swiss cheese brain. This is Tennessee, correct? This is Tennessee right here?
Yes, I think so.
So
Yep,
27% is new construction. So if you're still on the live stream, in terms of, will it affect prices in Tennessee? It may, because 27% of the overall inventory is new construction. So you might feel an increase, right? Not a pinch, but like if the new construction prices, if the new construction is suppressed because builders are pulling back, then you're going to have more demand on the existing inventory, which is going to push your prices up.
For sure.
Good if you're a home
This
seller.
is a very interesting graph, actually. I'm glad that you added that, because this is where you can see when these you're talking about almost 30% of the market. That's a big heavyweight right there.
Totally. I wanted to touch real quick, and I don't know how much you know about stagflation, Olga. It's like the buzzword that everybody's talking about, as opposed to a recession, right? And I wanted to just kind of, I came across this article by Financial Samurai. Like, this is not a mainstream article, but honestly, I read through it and I'm like, this is written yesterday, today? What is today's date?
He
Today.
actually has a really robust blog on different topics. I actually know him. Yes,
Oh,
I've seen
good.
him.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Because I was reading through it and I said, I want to just have, just for the sake of teaching and having a discussion, because I was on Jackie's live stream last night and the subject of stagflation came up, and it's not my wheelhouse, real estate is my gig, but this is something that keeps coming up, and there's a buzz about it for good reason. As the stagflation is a rare and challenging economic condition. It sounds like it's like a health thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Is there a pill for that? Can I get it? Can I just get it cut out? This is where slow or stagnant growth, high unemployment, and persistent inflation occurs simultaneously, which is exactly what we're having. It says typically inflation rises when an economy is expanding and demand is strong, while recessions tend to bring lower inflation due to a weaker demand. Stagflation defies this pattern, making it particularly difficult to address with traditional economic policies. Says what makes stagflation worse than a recession is the combination of economic stagnation and rising prices, creating a policy dilemma. And this is the crux of, this is going to be difficult to predict. This is not going to be, we're not going to be able to predict what's going to happen next because of this policy dilemma. It says in a typical recession, central banks can lower the rates, right? Mm-hmm. Which is what we had during the pandemic. We had a recession, they lower the rates, increase government spending to stimulate growth since inflation is usually low. We saw that 2020, 2021, right? It says, however, in a stagflationary environment, that's such a fun word, stagflationary, inflation remains high, and it is high right now, despite weak economic growth, making such stimulus measures risky as they could further fuel inflation. This limits policymakers' ability to tackle both issues effectively. Olga, do you read recently about the $5,000 check that the Trump administration wants to issue every single person in the country as
That
a
sounds that sounds familiar as to what they did back in 2008. Do you remember that?
yes,
The
yes. And it's supposed to be all the money they're saving from Doge and all the things. And
right.
it isn't set in stone. They keep alluding to it and all the things. They're talking about it. But here's the problem. If we're in an inflationary period, if we're in which all trickles down to the housing market, if we're in an inflationary period, and the inflationary period is being fueled by spending, how is giving people more money going to help that situation? I don't because if every American, it comes back to like what somebody said about entitlement and just like different viewpoints and stuff. If everybody took that 5,000 and put it in the bank and used to pay the rent, pay the mortgage, but that's not going to happen.
Nope. See, what I would love to see is it's interesting to read because I actually minored in economics in college. So this is interest to me. I follow that because I
Yep.
can see how it affects everyone, even though whether you're moving or not anytime soon or today. I would love to see other examples in history where this was tracked. What happened then in the market? What were those numbers like? And how long did it take to get out? And what were some of the action steps that were taken to get out of that situation? That's what I
Okay.
would like to see.
Ask and you shall receive. It happened in the
Oh,
1970s,
oh,
Olga. Ask and you
thanks for
shall
trolling.
receive. I feel like what's that Johnny Carson? With the
Yes,
hat? What's the guy's
yes.
name? Somebody in the chat to help me out here. You know what I'm talking about. Johnny Carson had the magic he put the genie hat on. Oh, my brain, I can't think of it. Somebody in the
That's
chat
okay.
knows. I know
It's not
somebody's
a
watching
spam.
knows who I'm talking about. It was like
Hmm.
the magic voodoo. Anyways, I'm going to go on to this and somebody's going to answer my question.
Yep.
It says a historical example of stagflation occurred in the 1970s when oil supply shocks and poor monetary policies led to rising energy prices, high
Mm-hmm.
unemployment, and persistent inflation. We have high unemployment. We have persistent inflation. Why we have high unemployment, I don't understand. Do I need to go back to the page that says we have 500,000 in manufacturing jobs open? But I guess if you're getting paid more unemployment check, if you're getting more in your unemployment check than you are by getting the manufacturing job, then that's what you do. It says the
All
Federal
right.
Reserve.
People are saying Karnak.
Karna. Yes, the great. Yes, the great. Yeah, the Grace Karna. Yeah. Just thank you. That's what it is. It says the Federal Reserve eventually had to raise interest rates sharply to
Hmm.
control inflation, triggering a deep recession. It says, unfortunately,
Hmm.
current economic conditions suggest that we may be heading toward stagflation. It says, I estimate that the chance has been increased to 65%. I've heard that multiple times from multiple sources this week. Increased tariffs on imported goods, along with a rising risk of recession over the next 12 months, are contributing to economic uncertainty. And when people are uncertain, they stop spending. When people stop spending, corporate profits and investments plummet. It says while the wealthiest individuals and policymakers can weather the downturn more easily, many average Americans could feel the squeeze. A tariff is a regressive tax because it hurts families at the bottom more than it does families at the top. Do we need to scream this from the top of our lungs and let them know this? It's simple math because low income households save less and spend more of their income on necessities, which will now cost more. The people at the top with the most amount of money are not going to care. There's going to be people that continue to buy houses, right? There's going to be people that are, if you're going to put your house in the market, it will sell. Why? Because there are people in those higher tax brackets that have capital. They have equity in their house. Maybe they don't have a mortgage. So they can take that and buy another property, no problem.
Hmm.
The people that are going to suffer, middle class, lower middle class, and lower class, first time home buyers.
Hmm.
The ones that don't have the capital, that can't weather the storm. I don't know about you, I'm saving money, Olga.
Oh, I hear
I've
you.
cut back big time on my spending just to be smart about it, you know?
Well, that's what we're talking about, the basic of having your rainy day fund. Guys,
Yep.
we are in the tax season right now. I encourage all of you to take your refund that you are getting, hopefully, and not doing anything with it, but putting it in the high yield savings account. So that way it's there to give you peace of mind. If something were to happen, you have some funds to rely on.
So you know what? This is a little like totally non-real estate, total non-real
Hmm.
estate little tip. If you are earning less than 3% on your savings account, you need
Yeah,
to make a change. There are
100%.
try Capital One. Channel is not sponsored by Capital One. This is my own personal experience, but you just go online. There are so many available savings accounts. You get outside, you go into some of the bigger banks. Um,
There's a
Apple
website that I
has
learned.
Apple has their own savings account. I was through Goldman Sachs. It's with someone else now, but
Yes, Marcus. Marcus.
it was hovering. I don't even know what it is now. I think it's like 3.5%. It was at 4.5% for a long time. But I mean, that's a lot of money. If you have a savings account that's earning like 0.5%, oh, please, 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 please look out.
There's
There's
a
so
good
much more
website
better
if you
ways for your
guys.
money.
Yeah, there's a good website if you guys want to check it out. Somebody else gave it to in one of the classes I was attending. It's called raisin.com. Raisin as
Oh,
in a
yep,
fruit, dried
yep.
fruit. So it's an aggregate telling you and showing you what's out there right now available, whether it's a high yield savings account, whether it's a CD. It's a great place for you just to see everything in one place, and then you can decide what's best for you. So just a thought to check out.
That's absolutely that's a good suggestion.
Hmm.
Lots of chat, lots of chatter in the chat, going back and forth. I love it, love it, love it. It's like a little house party.
We're helping
Absolute.
Nunny try to sell his house. That's what's
Yes,
going on
it's.
here.
I think it's
Everybody's feeling.
fantastic. It's like everybody's. It's like a dinner party, and minus the beverages. Um, let's see here. David says the Doge checks are not to go to everyone, but to those who pay taxes. Okay, so that
That's
makes
fair,
perfect
right?
sense.
Yeah,
That makes
that's fair.
perfect sense. Um, let's see. Sorry. Yeah, don't hold your breath for manufacturing jobs back. Um,
I think that's going
everybody's
to take
trying to help
time.
the damn business try to get his house sold. I think that's
Mhm.
great.
Yes,
You get a support system when you come on this live stream.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So hey, listen, I wanted to dig in uh, into a question. So I got a question off of one of my videos earlier this week, and this is totally off topic, but it's a question that it's like doesn't warrant a whole video, but for sure is a question that I get a lot, and it has to do with smart home stuff or smart doorbells, right? So these things are not cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at the Ring products, you're putting down a couple $100 more, especially if you buy it after the tariffs kick in. Like it's a lot of money. And this viewer asked me, like, what do we do? What do we do about this doorbell camera? And what I sell my house? Do I take it or replace it or leave it? And so I wanted to just chat about it real quick because I think that question can be said for any smart home device, right? Like, so over the past 5 years, the smart home industry has evolved from, oh, you got to be a techie, a tech head to get into it, to anybody, anybody. My parents have Ring doorbells and all the things. It drives me crazy because they don't have it programmed and it properly. So when it like does the alarm every time there's motion, it does an alarm every time somebody comes to like it's like ding. I'm like, what is going on? Like, you gotta turn that off. They're like, oh, we're trying to figure it
Yes,
out.
that's technology and baby boomers.
Yes, but
I hear you. I
it's
hear you.
if you have a security system that has the little sensors, the wireless sensors on the windows and the doors, if you have smart lights, smart light bulbs can be expensive. What do you do? Well, so here's the thing, and I come from a place of knowledge on this. I have over 85 smart home devices in my house, Olga. Like, I'm
Wow.
I
You
have
are an
a
expert, Jen. I
I
should talk to you.
it's I'm a geek with this stuff. I actually built
Okay.
a Raspberry Pi computer, a small computer I've had in
Oh,
my
wow.
basement for the sole purpose of handling my smart home stuff. Like I'm a little obsessed with it, but my kids are like they think it's ridiculous until they actually like press the button and all the lights go on. They're like, my oldest
Mm.
said to me, she's like, you know what, mom, to be proof, she's like, I know I complain about it, but honestly, I love our smart house. It's not a dumb
Yeah, there you go.
house.
This is pretty cool, right?
But on that note, I always think like when I move, eventually I will sell my house. What do I do? Well, so here's the thing. These things have a shelf life. And with the speed of technology and the way things move, that piece of tech that you put in, if that is over a year old, I'll be honest, I would not take it with you. Because if you have like a doorbell and it's attached to the house, then in order to remove it, now you've got a hole, you've got to replace it with something else. So you're going to have to spend money to replace even with a traditional doorbell. You're going to have a hole. You're going to sell the house without a doorbell, and you have a hole in the outside of the wall. You got to replace it. But for starters, a lot of these things. I mean, if it's light bulbs, you can take them out, replace them with regular, light bulbs. Fine. But if you have anything that's mounted, sensors or the doorbell or floodlights, I've got a flood cam, my driveway, that kind of thing. My suggestion would be to if it's a year, 2 years old, just leave it. Just leave it and buy new when you get to the new house. But then follow the manufacturer's instructions. Every single one of these, when you disconnect your Wi-Fi,
Yes.
and it stops talking, there is a way to reset it. And that's what I would recommend is you reset these things right before you leave, reset them to factory settings. And even if you don't, it's not going to work because you're going to take your Wi-Fi, either return it to the box or take the modem, take the routers with you. So it's not going to work anymore for the new owners because they don't have the Wi-Fi password and all the things. So reset it, follow the instructions. Everything's available on the old interwebs. Just Google it. How do I reset the Ring doorbell? But I would reset it to factory settings, but leave it on the property. What do you think, Olga?
I agree with you. I actually have a client right now that is taking her doorbell. But you know what? That is actually part of my checklist. When I sit down with clients, I ask them, let's talk about technology. Let's talk about smart things in your home. What do we have? Is there anything that you may want to take with you? Because we want to address it before it goes on the market,
Yep,
for sure. Right.
100%.
And I think you make a really good point. If it's old tech that's a year or two older, does it really make sense? To some people, maybe it does because they don't want to go more techie. Then sure, let's take our Ring doorbell. You're
Yep,
just gonna have to again, fill it in and make sure that it's all proper and it looks good.
yep.
But I think that's a really good conversation again to have when you're listing the home about the things that are included, excluded, as part of just going
Ab-
through your checklist.
well, not only that, but excluded and also disclosure. Because I put a disclosure on every house, just as a matter of policy in 2025. This property has surveillance devices because let's be honest,
Mhm.
every single one of these, whether you have an Alexa, whether you have a Google Home or whatever, or Ring doorbell or any kind of other brand, doesn't matter. A lot of these devices have audio video monitoring, a lot of them. And you know what? You don't want to take them down, And I usually ask the client, like, okay, you have Alexa, you use it on a regular basis. Okay, we just disclose it. But if not, are you okay with unplugging it, putting it away? And sometimes they're like,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't really use it that much. Put it away. If not, I had a client that says, well, that's kind of like controls all my smart home stuff. And, when I'm away, I'm like, no, okay, we'll just disclose. People need to know that you might be listening. You have to
And
disclose
also,
that.
if you want to talk briefly about like ADT security systems where we have the sensors on the windows and the doors, most of the time, but check with your company, they will just tell you to leave everything.
Yep.
Maybe take your central, the controller monitor piece, maybe take that with you, but everything else is going to stay because when you go to the new house, they're going to put in all new systems and sensors, all new property.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, we've got, thank you very much, Karen. Sometimes I'm a little too obsessed when my ADHD kicks in and I get really like trying to figure something out, Olga. Or I see something on a YouTube video, which is usually that's my Achilles heel. I watch a new YouTube video. I'm like, oh, I can put water sensors. Oh, a little PSA, guys. If you
Yes.
have Alexa, if you have an Apple TV device, those serve as home. They serve as a connected piece of equipment that you can add things to. There are some companies. I have a company that like makes like budget smart home stuff. Acora, so great. Aquara, I think it's as how you spell it. Yeah, there's no U after Q. It's weird, but anyways, they had these little tiny white pucks. They're like $15, and they're water sensors. And so I put one under my washer. I put them near my hot water tank. I put it under
Writing it down.
in my sink. I put it in the bathroom. And let me tell you something. I have it in my washer. I was sitting upstairs. So my washer's in the basement. I was in my office. All of a sudden my phone went off. Water in the basement. The sensor's been activated. Oh crap. Ran down there. I just had a new washer dryer installed. Ran down there. Sure enough, doing a load of laundry, and the hose was just a skosh, needed tightened, and there was water dripping down, and I was able to catch it. But I was so happy. I'm like, it worked. I mean, of course, I tested it before I did that. I like literally took out a plastic container of water and like dumped it in to make sure it actually works. But it was a real case thing. So it was like $15 for peace of mind. So
100%.
I suggest you check it out. You know what?
It's Aquara.
There you go.
Is that right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
It says
Yeah.
Aquara water leak sensors, something like that.
Yeah, you got to buy what they call the hub. So the hub, it's like $25 or $30 or something. And that hub just plugs into the wall and it talks to your home base, whatever your home base is. And then it's just like, you just follow directions in the phone and set it up and stuff. But hey, this has been a great conversation. Olga, I think that obviously this is an ongoing, evolving situation with these tariffs.
Sure.
And I think the potential long term, I think we both agree, if it stays its course and we start heading down that road of stagflation, and there aren't any intervention procedures or executive orders or whatever to change the trajectory of where we're at now, it's going to upset things. It's going to upset things in terms of buyers potentially paying more. It's going to upset things for maybe market slowdown in certain areas. It could, it's going to increase prices for sure because it'll decrease inventory. And who knows? And then there's the whole issue of interest rates. Interest will go up if it's in a stagnation situation. Until the Fed puts their foot down, until somebody pulls the plug. But I don't. It's complicated. And there's so many moving parts. I just don't think it's a. I think we're open up Pandora's. I think Pandora's box has been opened. I don't know. What are your final thoughts on this?
I think that it's a good idea to keep a pulse on it. You definitely don't need to panic. And I think it's also about being vigilant and understanding and just doing your own research. Just because something gets reported in the news does not mean that it's a fact, because we know that information can be twisted depending on how it's being relayed. Yeah.
You don't say. I thought the news people always told the truth.
Yeah, we can do a full angle on that. But I think it's just important if you see something or you read something, just verify that.
Yep.
And then that you have really all the full information so that way you can then make an educated decision based on what your own beliefs are.
Well, and I think that at the end of the day, and I always fall back on this. At the end of the day, people are going to move regardless. The market crashed, the great financial crisis. People moved. The market never stopped. The market never stopped. Who was buying and selling changed, but the market never stopped. This will be the same situation. I think the thing is on the heels of what we were talking about with saving money, if you are in a financial situation that you can't afford to buy, you can't afford to sell and buy, I don't think this puts the brakes on everybody. I don't think this puts the brakes on those that are prepared and willing and they're ready. I would caution against, I always caution against timing things based on the market. It's good to know the market, which is why I like to have these conversations so that you can have a better understanding of what you're reading. Because, good Lord, Olga, Jackie and I talk about this all the time. You have trouble sleeping. That time in my life. It's like don't sleep through the night most nights, and you're like up at 2 a.m. and you're doom scrolling on Instagram or TikTok, and you're like, oh my God. You know what I mean? You get into
you sleep for the rest of the night, right?
I'm like, I just might as well just move to Aruba or something. I don't know, because everything's terrible. And then I wake up and you get out and it's like, okay, it's not so bad. I think you got to be careful with that stuff. And as long as you don't get distracted and keep your focus on your economy, your personal economy, your personal economy, have an understanding of what's happening in the country, have an understanding of what's happening in the economic climate, but truly just worrying about your economy. And because this thing is not going to be here today, gone tomorrow. And if you're in a situation where you can't stay in your house because you're an empty nester, the house is too much for you to handle, or the house is too small, or you've got down payment and you're just you're ready to buy, but you're scared to do so. Don't let that stop you. Don't let that stop you. If you're prepared and you're ready and you have reserves, then you do what's best for you, and not.
When is the best time to make a move? When is best for you?
You got it. Amen, sister. So, Olga, thanks so much for joining this conversation. And you know what? Check out Olga's site. She does a lot of great content for seniors. Tons of great content. So appreciate you being here and sharing your very, very, very deep well of knowledge. And as always, guys, if you guys need a referral anywhere from coast to coast, there's a link in the description. And you can hit me up. There'll be, follow the directions, submit the little form. If you have submitted a referral request and you have not heard from me after you filled out the second form, I'm going to beg and plead for your patience because the market's kind of picked up a little here in my neck of the woods, and I'm a little behind, and I apologize profusely, but I'm catching up. No worries, I haven't forgotten about you. It's just that, or you might be in an area that I need to do a little bit more vetting because I don't want to just refer you to just anybody. So Angie has said it the best. Keep calm. Just keep calm. Just chill. Just chilling, man. I think that's the name of the day. That's the name of the game. We got major anxiety issues in this country. we don't need self-induced, right?
No.
Oh, real quick.
Yep.
The poll. Are you concerned about impact of tariffs on the housing market? 66% said yes. 27% said no. 7% said indifferent. So, Olga, 66%. People are concerned.
Here we go.
And you know what? I think they're concerned because we don't have enough information.
Agreed.
Information. And on that note, as I always say, as we're heading out into the world and being kind to our neighbor and all the things, if you don't disagree or if you have stress with someone, before judging, seek to understand. And that's what I would recommend for this whole situation. Don't freak out. Stay calm. Research.
Be kind.
Be kind and seek to understand. Try to get to learn more. Learn more. For sure. You know what? I'll just put this comment right up there. And You know what? I wish I was in Ohio and I could help you.
So,
I
no,
really
you
do.
definitely reach out to Jen, and
Yes,
she
if
will be happy to help you for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, and I hope if things turn around for you. I really, really do. I hope that things move forward. So, anyways, Olga, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you.
I had a
Appreciate all you
blast
guys. We'll
as
see
always.
you guys next week. Next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Same bat time, same bat channel. Have a good week, everyone.
Have a great evening, everybody. Bye-bye.